officially, I want to say a very big welcome, 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 welcome to you for being part of this training. In fact, you are about to cross a milestone of your life. You are about to be exposed to some things that you never believed existed before. And like I told you from the course outline review, I'm going to hold you by the hand and show you everything you need to know about web design. In fact, from scratch to finish, I will walk you through the process of designing a perfect website. So, all I just want you to do is get ready, move with me as I go step by step, unveiling the secrets to web design. Now, I have some recommendations for you in order for you to get maximum benefit from this course. The reason why I made this course a video is because I do not want you to complain that you did not understand how I did this, coming back to ask me questions, how did you do this, how do you do that? If you miss any step of the way, just go back and play the video, you will understand everything very, very well. I am making this video like a beginner is the one watching this video. So I'm not handling the class like it is a complex class. So even if you already know some things that I'll be talking about, take your time and look at the illustrations I'll be using because they will help you understand it more. So my one and only recommendation for you is that you should not skip any part of this video because I would not take delight in answering questions that I have already given attention to in this video. Yes. This is the online web design training powered by VSL Concepts. Like I said earlier, we'll be handling this class right from the scratch. So from our course outline, you see that the very first thing we'll talk about is the basics of web designing. And for us to start that basics, we need to first of all know what a website is. So if you are asked, what is a website? What would you say? Simply put, a website is a collection of web pages that is identified by a common domain name and is published on a web server, or another name, a web hosting. Forget about all those grammar I just spoke. The basic ideology is that a website is a collection of web pages that are stored somewhere on the internet. In fact, if you look at the statement, this statement here says all publicly accessible websites collectively constitute the World Wide Web. Don't worry, we will come back to this. But the basic ideology I want you to have is that a website is a collection of files that are saved somewhere on the internet. What am I trying to say? You can imagine a website to be a shelf that has so many documents. It holds so many files. Now, if you as a person wants to pick an information from that shelf, what do? Just like this young lady is doing here, you go over to the shelf and you do what? Pick the file out of the shelf. So all the texts, all the images, all the videos and everything you see on any website are files that are saved in a shelf on the World Wide Web. I hope that basic information is clear. So no matter anything you see on a website, it is a file that was saved where? In a shelf as it were, in a server as it were. In fact, if you look at the write-up again we have here, you see that we have three main statements or three main words that are highlighted. These three main words are the fundamentals of a website. Without any of these three things, the website can never, ever exist. What are these three things? Again, we have the domain name, 1. We have the web server or web hosting, 2. And we have the World Wide Web. We will now go into details explaining these three basic parameters of a website because the truth is, if you do not understand these basics, it will never, ever be possible for you to understand what a website is, not to even talk of designing a website. So we'll go straight up into defining what the World Wide Web is. I'm very sure that you must have heard or seen something like this before. www. Yes, you must have. In fact, when you're typing a link or a website link on a browser, on a URL, That is the first thing you put. www.vslconcept.com. That's the very first thing you put. That www stands for what? World Wide Web. World Wide Web. That is exactly what it stands for. We'll be going into detail shortly explaining what this World Wide Web means and why is it that you are putting this www on that URL. We are going to find out about that shortly. Okay? We have just talked about the World Wide Web. What is the World Wide Web? In fact, I want you to imagine and see the World Wide Web like another Earth, another world. As you can see in this image here, this is our Earth that we live in. Now, what I am trying to say is that there is another world outside this Earth that we live in, and that world is called what? The World Wide Web. So as humans and animals and living things exist here, in this very world, what are the things that exist here? Only website files and data are the things that exist here. So if you want to access somewhere, take for example, you want to give someone directions to your address, to your house. Take for example, you want to give someone direction to your home address. What are the basic things you give the person? Let's imagine the person is not in this planet. Let's imagine that the person is in Neptune or any of the 9 planets that we have. What information would you give to this person? The very first information you give to the person is that, hey, I live where? In the Earth. And the next thing you give the person is your address in the Earth. The same thing happens if you want to call up a file or a website from this World Wide Web. The very first information that the person has to put in his browser is what? The so-called Earth. The so-called what? Earth. Now, in order for you to put in this address, in this Earth, a platform must be there. There must be a road that you will pass to that address. In this context, that address is called the URL. It is called what? The Uniform Resource Locator. So simply put, the Uniform Resource Locator is that road, is that passageway that leads you to calling up files from this World Wide Web. That is exactly what it means. For you to call up files from this World Wide Web, we are not there. We all are not there. We are not in that. We are in the Earth. For us to call up files from this World Wide Web, we need access. We need a road. That road is called what? The Uniform Resource Locator. That is the URL. So once you open your browser and you want to put in a website link, where do you put that website link? On the URL. So that URL is just a passageway to the World Wide Web. I hope that is taken. Now, the next information that you give to someone that wants to come to your house is your house number, your street name, the state you are, the country you are. Those are the information you give to the person. In the case of the World Wide Web, the information you give to the person is what? The protocol and domain name. Now, this domain name is sounding familiar to you. We mentioned it some while ago. We are now going to go into details explaining what a domain name is. Remember, without house number, street name, state and country, someone who is coming to visit you in the Earth cannot get your house address. I hope that is taken. The same thing happens here. If someone does not get your domain name, the person can never, ever, ever, ever visit your files in the World Wide Web. I'm taking my time to explain these things so that you understand exactly what it is and how the whole system works. Remember, we said that for you to give someone your address, these are the information that you must give to the person. This is a house in the Earth. For you to give someone or get someone to come to your house, the person must have house number and street name. These are the basic information. I'm sure most of you have signposts like this directing people to your house. Say, this is number 5 so street, number 10 so street. That is about what? The house address. Now, on the World Wide Web, we say that a domain name is your website name. Now, think of a domain name as an address where internet users can access your website. Think of it as an address where internet users can do what? Access your website. So it means that once you go to that URL, I'm sure you can see this. This is the URL we have here. This URL is what you see on the browser. Once you open your browser, this is what you are going to see. You are going to see a bar where you can put in your address. Once you go to that URL, what you need for you to get access to files that are saved on the World Wide Web is what? The domain name. As you can see in this context, domain name here is what? www, calling up the World Wide Web, dot what? vslconcept.com. This is the domain name. So simply put, the domain name is just the address of your site, of your website, on where? On the World Wide Web. I hope that point is taken. Please, if you really do not understand any part of what I'm talking about, all you just need to do is what? Go back, play this video again, and you understand it perfectly well. So in a nutshell, what we have just said is, for you to access files on the World Wide Web, you need a domain name. For me to come to your house to visit you, I need your address. You know it's not possible for me to visit you without your address. That is just it. So it is not possible for two houses to have one address. Is it possible? Never ever possible. Even if two houses who stay close to each other will share one house number, in Nigeria or in some African countries, we differentiate those houses by number 15A, number 15B. So it is never possible for two houses to have one address. Never ever possible. The same way it is never ever possible for two websites to have one domain name. Never possible. Never ever possible. I hope you get that point. Never, 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 never possible for two houses to have one address. It is also not possible for two websites to have one domain name. So, to cut all we have just saying down, we are saying that for you to have a website, for a website to exist, it must be hosted in that world that we call the World Wide Web. And also for you to have a space in that world, for you to get someone to come to that world to see your files, the person must have access to your what? Your domain name. So the name of your website is simply your domain name. I hope that is understood. We will now go forward into the third thing I said we'll be talking about. That is what? The web hosting. What is web hosting? Simply put, a web hosting is you buying a plot of land in that World Wide Web. Take, for example, you want to build a house in your country. What would you do? You buy a piece of land, and on that plot of land, you will do what? Build your house. You cannot build a house in someone else's plot of land. Not possible. The same way, when you have your domain name, the next thing you must think of is doing what? Buying a plot of land. So a plot of land is just that house, as it were, in the World Wide Web, as you can see here, that house where all your files will be saved, all your text will be saved, all your videos will be saved. So if someone should now click on your domain name, automatically the person will do what? Have access to your what? The files you have saved. So automatically, the domain name is the house address, and the what? Web hosting is the spot where all the files are hosted. Guys, if you understand this simple information, you have gone 70% understanding what web design is all about. 70%. You get my point? If you understand that, hey, before you can have a website, you need to have an information, you need to have a domain name, which is access to where? The World Wide Web, and also a hosting, which is buying a plot of land, a space on that internet. Don't worry, we'll go into details knowing how to get the domain name and how to get what? The web hosting. The next point I want to really talk about is, what are the differences between a domain name and a web hosting. I have highlighted this time without number, but I really want to talk about it a little more. So if you really do not get the whole picture about it, you get everything about the domain name. So the domain name is a unique name for your website, such as www.vslconcept.com. We have highlighted that. And the web server, or usually called the hosting, is an actual place where your website files are stored. What are we trying to say? This picture here actually shows a typical web hosting what? Company. Now, all these that you see here are storage spaces on the World Wide Web. They are all servers. We call them servers. Now, if you want to design a website, you need to buy a space in any of these servers. Any of the servers. After buying your domain name looks like the ID, the address of this server, of the host of the site, and your hosting is buying a space here. Okay, see my wardrobe, see my cupboard, please save my files here. I own this 50 by 100. I own this 200 square meter by 500 square meter plot of land. Please, this is for me. Whenever someone asks for this domain name, please give the person whatever information that I have put here. That is just simply put. You get the point? So the domain name, as you see here, is just the name that you type on that URL. And the web hosting are all the files. You see, these are text files, images, forms, and everything that have been saved on that hosting portal or on the hosting platform. So guys, I really want you to understand the differences between the web hosting and domain name. Domain name is simply the name of the website, and the web hosting is simply put the point or the space where those files are saved on the World Wide Web. I hope that point is taken. Now, I missed something earlier. I was supposed to talk about what we call protocol. Protocol. Now, what is protocol? How do we define protocol? Simply put, protocol is the means at which these files that you want to call up are being transmitted. How do I mean? Please, I want to use this little illustration to explain to you what the protocol is. Take, for example, you want to carry a bullion van that has a lot of money in it, and you want to transport a container that is carrying only empty cartons. The way you will transport that container with empty cartons, is it the same way you transport the bullion van with money? Not at all. You will have so many policemen, so many security doing what? Guiding that bullion van. But for the carton, they are not there to lose anything. Nobody wants to burgle anything. The same thing also happens here. How do you want these files that you have saved here to be transmitted to the user who wants to see them? Do you want to attach some security to it? Do you just want to transfer the files straight ahead without putting any security? It all depends on what you are transferring. Have you seen a website before that you visited, and once you visit the website, the next thing you are going to see is an alert on the task bar that is saying this site is not secure? Automatically, they hosted that website and there was no security SSL attached to it. That is why in most professional websites, you see that whenever they finish hosting the website on the server, they attach what? A security guard. That is what we call the SSL security. We'll be going into details understanding what all of this means. But I just want you to understand that the protocol is exactly how the files are what? Transmitted. You see that this protocol here is what? HTTPS security. Somewhat HTTP, no security. So if you visit a website and you see the website is telling you that this website is not secured, it means that that website does not have a security attached to it. It means that some files that you might submit on that website are vulnerable to hackers. It means that that bullion van that you have loaded with funds, there is no security with it. Armed robbers can easily do what? Attack that bullion van and take away that money and take away the information you're putting on that website. I hope you get the point. So that is why for your website to be secured, where hackers cannot have easily access to it, the HTTPS protocol is very, very important. That is the reason why when you visit a website, they would warn you that this website is not secure. Do you still want to submit your information to this website? Click on proceed if you want to do so. I'm sorry you have seen things like that before. So what are we trying to say, guys? The domain name is the name of the site, while the hosting is the space on the World Wide Web where the files are stored. Guys, we have so many types of domain names. So many of them. So many domain names. We have .com domain name, .mu domain name, .org, .gov, .info, .net, .biz, .edu. There are so many of them. In fact, the list goes on and on and on and on. But the question is, when should one use a .com domain name? When should one use a .org domain name? When should one use .edu domain name? In fact, I have seen some sites, some company sites that they say a web designer built. And when we look at this site, we see a construction company carrying .org domain name. It means that the person that designed that website does not know what he's doing. Because if you understand when to use each of these domain names, you will actually move with the trend. I will briefly be discussing about the top 5 domain names that are used in the world today. These domain names are domain names that whatever website you want to design today, you are likely to fall into any of them. So please pay thorough attention to this part so you know exactly what kind of domain name to buy for your client when your client needs a domain, when you suggest a domain for your client. The very first one is what? The one that is popularly used. That is what? The .com domain name. Now, .com domain name just means that you are creating this website for a commercial business. It can be a company, it can be any kind of industry that falls into the commercial system. Sell, service to provide, anything at all. They fall under what? .com domain name. How about the .org domain name? Maybe you are setting up an NGO website, a religious website, in fact, a non-profit organization. At that point, you use a .org domain name. So it means that if you want to design a website for a religious organization, it does not make sense to buy a .com domain name. Look at most of the religious websites you see all around the world today. They fall under the category of what? .org. So I am categorically telling you right now that if you want to design any religious website, the domain name you must buy is a .org domain name. If you want to design a website for an NGO, for a non-profit organization, you use a .org domain name. The very next one is .gov, .gov. Only government agencies are allowed to use .gov domain name. So if you want to design any website for any governmental agency, the .gov domain name is exactly what you should use for that job. .edu are for educational institutions, any form of school. So imagine someone creating a school and is putting domain name .com for a school. No. That is why we have the .edu what? Domain name. You get the point? The next is what? .net. Network organizations. I'm sure you understand what I mean by all these 5 domains that are available for us. Please and please, guys, for you to become a professional, you must know when to use a particular domain and when not to use this particular domain. I'm sure that I've explained to you exactly what you need to know about how to choose a domain name and how not to choose a domain name. The truth is, the domain name business is one business that is very, very lucrative. During the course of this training, I'm going to show you 10 different things you can sell as we move on in this training. Remember I promised you that I'll be showing you exactly how to make a minimum of $2,000 on a platform called Fiverr.com. On this platform, guys, do you know that you can suggest domain name to people? Do you know that? Let me take you over to Fiverr and let's see how people are making money suggesting domain names for persons. This is one gig that I want you to set up on Fiverr. Let's head on to Fiverr. So we are here on Fiverr. Like I said, Fiverr is a freelancing website where you can register your profile as a freelancer, as a web designer, and you can start making money. So let us just start for domain names. Let's see some jobs that people do on Fiverr. Domain names. I want to blow your mind, guys. I want to show you something. Alright guys, so all these that you see here are gigs and profiles of persons who says they want to do either one thing or the other about a domain name. See, this person says, I will brainstorm amazing SEO business name for you. How much? $20. This one says, I will help you sell your domain name with appraiser and landing page. I will brainstorm catchy business name, brand name and company for you for how much? $10. What do these persons do? Anybody who buys this gig or who employs this person is just saying, hey, please, I want to set up a clothing company. Think of a domain name for me. That is just it. That is just it. So you can come on Fiverr and set up a gig and say, hey, I just want to think of domain names for you. And is that difficult? Not at all. I will now show you one website that can help you deliver these services without any issue. What you are usually required to do is you give the person maybe 5 to 10 different names that the person can choose from. You get my point? Now, before I go there, imagine this person have about 24 reviews on her profile. It means that 24 persons, a minimum of 24 persons have paid her $20 just to choose domain name for them. 20 times 24, you can do the multiplication and you see how much this particular person have earned actually offering this service. I hope you get my point. So the name of the site that can actually help you deliver this gig professionally is what we call businessnamegenerator.com. All you just need to do is go to that website, put in the person's information, what industry does the person's business fall into, put it into that site, and they will give you suggestions of domain names. Let's quickly do that practical so you see. So let's imagine someone have employed me for me to give him a clothing brand domain name. All I just need to do is go over to what? businessnamegenerator.com. businessnamegenerator.com. Now, on this website, we are going to see a whole list of domain names for that person. So we'll come over to Business Name Generator, enter words and click generate. So let me just say clothing brand. Clothing, generate. So they are going to give me so many ideas of what? Clothing brand names that we can deliver to this client. Okay? You see clothing fairs, these are all different names, different names. Clothing street, clothing closet, different names. You have so many pages. So it is just for you to come here, pick names, add the person's brand name that they have given to you, add it to any of these ones that make sense to you, and deliver 5 of them. And I tell you, you have collected this $20. Very, no work. Very easy. Extremely easy. So guys, you can actually make money from suggesting domain names to persons that will hire you here. Now, let me give you another very sweet business that people also do. We call that business what? Domain stacking. Domain stacking. Domain stacking is a very big business. In fact, people who are into this business are billionaires today. I'm sure you know what real estate means. When we talk about real estate, people who buy houses and they resell the houses later. Yes. Some persons go into domain stacking. Take for example, you can think of a business, oh, this business will soon come up and they will need this particular domain. What people do today is they go over to that site, buy the domains, keep the domain, and once this person comes for their domain, they will escalate the price of the domain. A typical example is facebook.com. Now, I'm sure you know that Facebook has two websites. The first website is what? facebook.com. And the second one is what? fb.com. This is another website that Mark Zuckerberg bought. Now, how much did he buy this domain name? Someone saw that Mark has bought facebook.com. The person immediately went to buy what? fb.com. How much did Mark buy this domain name? Let's find out from Google. Okay? How much did Mark buy fb.com domain? Let me blow your mind. As you can see here, guys, I don't want to say it by myself. Let me read it out for you, okay? As for price, sources show that Facebook purchased the domain facebook.com for $200,000 from About Face on August 23rd, 2015. In 2010, Facebook paid an even larger sum for the domain name fb.com. It was purchased for a whopping $8.5 million from the American firm Bureau Federation for using in Facebook messaging. Guys, think about that. Facebook paid a whopping sum of what? $8.5 million to purchase the domain fb.com. Is that not mind-blowing? Now, begin to think how much this person must have bought this fb.com. Just start the domain. So there are some persons who decided to go into domain name stacking. We call it domain name real estate. They go out there, make research for big companies, find out the shortest keyword that the companies will potentially want to buy. And they do what? Buy these domains and keep them. This is a business that is very lucrative. I'm really sure that you are so surprised seeing how much Facebook bought fb.com. So domain name stacking is a business that someone can decide to go into. You can also decide to offer suggestion of domain name services to people on Fiverr, and you make so much money with it. Now, the truth is, guys, I'm going to show you exactly how to offer these services from beginning to end in this training. I'm also going to show you how you can start making money with these little services. Remember, I told you I'm going to show you 10 ways you can earn money as a freelancer. I've just showed you 2. 1, domain name suggestion, and 2, domain name stacking. Let's keep counting. Now, when I get to the 10th one, I will tell you I have fulfilled my promise, guys. So, guys, we have learned so much in this very short lesson we've had today. At least now, you know exactly what a website is, you know exactly what a hosting is, you know exactly what a domain name is, and you know the meaning of the word acronym, WWW, World Wide Web. That's exactly what it means. We are now going to give you an assignment. The assignment is just to prove to me that you understand exactly what we have discussed about today. The very first assignment we'll be talking about is, what is a domain name? The second is, what is a server or a hosting? The third is, what is the full meaning of the acronym WWW? And how do you understand the terms Uniform Resource Locator? What do you think that terms mean? And also, explain the relationship between a domain name and a server and a hosting. So these assignments are assignments that you should submit. I have already showed you how to submit your assignment in the classroom. So that should not be a problem to you at all. We'll be looking forward to get this assignment for you. So the next video that we'll be talking about is what? How to get cheap domain names and hosting. Do we go to the World Wide Web to buy them? How do we buy them? We'll talk about that in the next video. I hope you enjoyed this class. In fact, I really want you to tell me how much more you enjoyed this class in the comment section of this class. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you in the next video.